Welcome to Sachs Realty's Tuesday Night Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything real estate. Each week, we deliver expert information enabling you to make better informed decisions while keeping more money in your pocket. If you're interested in real estate, this is your show. Guys, welcome to our Tuesday Night Live. It's Melissa and I will be your guide tonight, your hosts, and we are the special guests.
We are the special guests. We're the special guests unless we decide to take some callers.
I think we should.
I think we should too.
I think we should take some callers tonight. It's a lot to talk about in the real estate industry. One of the things that I want to cover tonight is I want to set the record straight on a lot of what you may or may not be hearing about this proposed lawsuit, $418 million, the National Association of Realtors. A lot of people think that they've rolled over on their membership. One of the things I've been hearing a lot is agents hitting social media, and they have been saying things. Really what they've been saying is nothing's changed. Keep things the way they are. Just want to let you know, ignore what you're hearing because everything is fine. And nothing has been decided on. Yes, that's true. The federal judge has not signed the proposed settlement. However, you can't say that nothing has changed. I mean, you all are asking questions. I'm personally hearing it from clients. It's headline news. One of the only things I think the Biden administration came out and said that this would mean that buyers and sellers will save an average of maybe it was $10,000 or something. I don't know where they get this information.
I know.
But how can an agent sit there with, hey guys, I'm making an Instagram post here. I just want to let you know I want to set the record straight for all of you people that are hearing what's going on with this NAR settlement. Nothing's changed. Everything's the same.
No, I mean, we had an agent today. We had a meeting, a team meeting, a Sachs Realty meeting, and she said things are about to get weird. Things are about to get weird.
Yeah, and this is an agent with a lot of experience, associate broker.
Yeah. And then we have agents that are like, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know the future. Do I want to be an agent anymore?
A lot of people are asking that question.
Yeah.
We're hearing agents say that they're quitting. I want to go into, so I spent hours with our attorney trying to decipher all this stuff so we can come up with a good answer, a way to try and predict where we're going with this thing. I'm not an attorney. I want to lay that down first. We're going to talk about some legalese tonight, but I'm not an attorney. I'm going to try and keep myself out of hot water. We're going to take some callers tonight. So, Joe, if you want to pop up the link for somebody that wants to jump in here and talk to us tonight about your experience, what's going on in your world. You have questions about home buying or selling. We're going to get down to it. First, I want to talk about Bright MLS. They published this. We're going to pull it up and kind of walk through this a little bit. But I want to talk about the MLS sent us. And by the way, this is all entangled together. The National Association of Realtors, in order to have access to the MLS, a realtor needs to be part of this organization. They've proposed, NAR has proposed that a $418 million settlement will be paid over 4 years if the federal judge approves it. And basically, if you look at it, there's $1 million. I mean, I look at it this way. They said, in 2024, dues won't go up. Well, I mean, it hasn't even been accepted yet, but thanks for not raising our dues in 2024.
Reassurance.
That's nice.
Right.
So you figure if there's 1 million realtors and 418 million, if they all pay $418 over the next 4 years towards this, you have 418 million.
Yeah.
It's not hard to figure out. It doesn't seem like a lot of money to me. And they'll probably just raise dues and pay for this settlement. But here's the thing, where agents are getting this information, if we can just turn to this Bright MLS, so we get this alert in our MLS that says, don't panic. It says, first off, it's important to note that the settlement still needs to be approved by the court, which likely will not occur for many months, So for now, nothing is changing. And I think that's where these agents are getting a lot of this, social media, content that they're putting out there. But like I said, we know things have changed. All of a sudden, everybody is aware of this. Mainstream media is pinning the tail on I said donkey today, but they said ass in their sales meeting.
Yeah.
And so they're making the agents out to be that.
They are.
Not saying that agents aren't not to blame for some of the discontent that clients are feeling out there, but NAR was able to negotiate important protections for the industry. That does three important things. It ends the lawsuits, provides a broad set of protections against similar class action lawsuits, and will also require a new set of MLS rules. By the way, none of the rules say that you don't have to be an agent or a realtor. You don't have to, that I see, nothing says, well, you don't have to join the membership in order to have access to the MLS. That's not what I've seen as the proposal. But for your businesses, again, it's important to note that nothing is changing right now, as the settlement still needs to be approved by the court, which is likely not to occur for many months. Again, new MLS rules. Let's just go over a couple of these. Because what does this mean for you buyers out there or you sellers out there? This means a lot. This is a game changer for everybody because it's hard to get the right information. So we're going to set the record straight tonight. I'm not an attorney, but we're going to dissect some of these proposals, and we're going to talk about what that means for most people out there that are looking to buy a house. More importantly, because there are a lot of you out there that have been sidelined. The affordability issues, change in rates, lack of money. People don't have any money in their bank accounts, for one. I mean, hey, that's something. But let's go over some of these proposed requirements that they're going to kind of jam down everybody's throat, if you will, if the judge approves this. New set of requirements for MLS subscribers that would go into effect in the second half of 2024. Buyers, here you go. Buyers will continue to be able to be represented by realtors if you choose to be. What's not changing? Sellers and their brokers will continue to have the option to pay the buyer's broker, their agent, essentially, their commission. What's changing late this year if the settlement is approved? While MLS subscribers will continue to be able to offer to share their compensation with the buyer broker, no longer would that be allowed in the MLS. What this means, okay, which is really confusing. I don't know what this accomplishes. But they're basically saying that if you're a seller and you want to offer compensation to a buyer's broker, the buyer's agent, your listing agent can't put that in the MLS. How does that help? What does that mean for people? So now it becomes even more ambiguous as to whether the buyer's agent will be paid by the buyer or the seller. We'll hide that information. We're not going to allow it to be on the MLS. Doesn't make sense to me. But a new option will be added, and this is really crazy, guys. A new option will be added that a seller's agent will be able to enter into the MLS whether and what their seller client is willing to offer as a concession in the price, such as X amount of dollars towards a new roof, or X amount of dollars towards closing costs, but it can't be advertised that it can go towards your agent's commission. MLS subscribers will not be allowed to put a specific amount of buyer broker compensation in the concession field. So, what they're saying here is that, let's say, and we'll dive into a little bit more about the agreements, of what's being proposed. But let's just say now your agent is under contract with you. You have a buyer's agent. You sign an agreement that your buyer agent is going to get paid either by you or by somebody. And now all of a sudden the agent's got to call around and say, hey, Joe, you're the listing agent on 5 Main Street. Are you offering any commission? You can't get a hold of the agents now anyway, so as it is. Now you're going to have to put another step in there and say, try and get a hold of the agent and find out, because your buyer's going to be wanting to know, well, who's paying the commission? Am I paying the commission? Is the seller paying the commission? Or whatever. So that's a mess.
It's a mess. And then, so we're a statutory state in Maryland. So we can't just go by word of mouth on what an agent says. I think there needs to be some sort of documentation, something coming from the brokerage on the other side that is going to have in writing what the exact compensation is now that it's being removed from the MLS. I don't know.
This all stemmed from a case from last year, the Sitzer-Burnett case, where the plaintiffs were successful in suing NAR and the some major brokers, real estate brokers. And basically this settlement that NAR is, there's all kinds of potential problems with it. But basically what they're saying is that this, if the federal judge accepts this settlement, that approximately a million real estate agents will be included and exempt from further lawsuits of this type. But here's what they did. If you're a broker and you did $2 billion or more in sales in 2022, you're not included in this settlement. So about 94,000 brokerages are not included in this settlement. They're excluded from this settlement unless they put money into this fund, is my interpretation of it, and speaking to my lawyer. So it doesn't take care of all of the brokerages. So a lot of people are feeling that NAR is making this settlement, but they didn't include everybody. They only included the small brokers. We're included in that as a small broker. But we all said, well, why did NAR come out with this proposed settlement? And they said, well, we'll release liability. It says agreement will release NAR over 1 million NAR members. And they had a couple options. They could fight the verdict and go through appeal process. And if they were successful in that case, it wouldn't stop the other cases from going forward. And they could also file Chapter 11. They could go bankrupt. NAR could just go bankrupt. And they said that wasn't really viable either, because that wouldn't preclude other claims and lawsuits to their members. So they were trying to put this package together, I guess, to help the majority of the members. But as part of this, what Melissa was saying is, being a statutory state, we in Maryland, we have these signed agreements. When it comes to real estate, there's no verbal agreement. It has to be written as it pertains to real estate. And, you know, what this opens up a whole question of, how do you handle your sellers? How do you have conversations about compensation? And how do you handle your buyers? And how do you talk about compensation with that? This is going to take out a lot of agents. This is going to eliminate a lot of agents. It's going to take out brokers too. I mean, it's going to bankrupt brokers. They're going to fold. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, that we clean this business up, and that there hasn't been a lot of neglect on the part of businesses, brokerages, and raising the bar and responsibility of transparency in this industry. But I think this is going to open, for the next couple of years, this is really going to set up a lot of confusion So I do want to talk tonight about what we're doing here at Sachs Realty and how we're handling things. And maybe you could pick up some good pointers on it, some good tips, things that may help you if you're looking to buy or sell eventually. Or if you're just curious as what's going on in the industry, if you're an agent and you're wondering what's going on, if I'm not your broker, talk to your brokers about this. And if you're under representation agreement, certainly talk to your agents and your brokers. I'm just giving you what we're doing here and how we're advising our agents to proceed. So, but let's take a couple questions. We'll start off with that. We'll take a couple callers tonight. And if you're out there looking to, if your house is for sale right now, there hasn't been any changes that have been etched in stone. But moving forward, we're changing the way that we're handling things. And I think the biggest thing is that we got to make sure that everything is transparent and that our liability, as we're talking to buyers and sellers and even tenants and landlords, that everything is documented and everything is in writing. And ultimately, we have to remember in this business, guys, the transaction is between two parties, not us. Between, in the case of for sale, it's between the buyer and the seller. We are facilitators. We try and advise professionally the people that we represent. But we've got to remember that the transaction is between a buyer and a seller, and whoever we work for, they're the boss. And I think the transparency, and I've been saying for a very, very, very long time, we have been in front of this at Sachs Realty. We have already changed a lot of our documentation to be very transparent and way ahead of even this settlement. We have seen where the frustrations have lied, and the other thing that we're constantly, and we're working every day to try and educate consumers like you, the public at large, and we've been shouting from the mountaintop for years that commissions are negotiable. And that's the only thing. And we know what the allegations are. This is all about, alleged price fixing in the industry. I don't personally feel that the way that the system has been operating, at least from our standpoint and how we've been operating, I don't believe that we've been price fixing. I don't even know that the industry has been. It may be happening out there, but not anything that I'm directly aware of, because everything should be a communication between a buyer and seller. And if you didn't get that, that type of open communication, then,
they're not getting it because, they call in and they say how frustrated they are. Buyers have had a lot of trouble, a lot of pain with the agents that they've been dealing with. And what were we just talking about? Nicole, hey, Nicole, sellers, agents will have to answer the phone now. Very, very true. And then we had another comment here. How much time is going to be wasted fielding phone calls from agents asking if we are offering out commission? It's a new way of doing it.
It's the way commercial real estate's been operating for years. I remember when I first got into commercial real estate, compensation wasn't a given. You had that conversation. I think that I don't disagree with the way the practice is that we should be talking about compensation. Number one, you don't want a free agent.
No.
And agents have been saying it. One of the problems is agents, the allegations, and I've seen this firsthand. Agents, what they're saying is, in a lot of cases, is you don't pay me, buyer. The seller's broker is compensating us. I've heard it said, and where they say, they're free. And that's one of the rules, is that there has to be transparency with that the agent is not working for free. They go to settlement, and a lot of the frustration has been, that I've heard, is that they have an agent, no discussion is made, they sign an agency agreement, maybe, I don't know, their state, whether it requires it, but they don't talk about it, they don't talk about how they get paid, and then all of a sudden they The buyers go to the open house. Well, we'll start in the beginning. A lot of the buyers find their own house. Then they go to the open house, and then they ask their agent to write an offer. The agent, I've had it happen to me, calls me up after my open house and says, hey, my buyer wants to put an offer on the house. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth putting an offer in? Because I don't want to, waste our time if we're going to be submitting and competing with 4 other offers or 10 other offers. So is it worth it? And the first thing I say is, it's interesting. I don't see you on my registry here as using my lockbox, my electronic lockbox. Did you show this house? No, my buyer went by your open house and saw it. Oh, well, that's great. Did you see the house? No. Well, why are you asking me if it's worth it? Why are you asking me if it's worth writing an offer on this house and you haven't even seen it? How can you put an offer in on a house that you haven't even seen? I've seen buyers put offers in on houses that they haven't seen because they're, across the country and they're moving and they want to do it virtually. I mean, this has been new in the last 4 years, but it does happen. But how can an agent represent their client and put an offer in on a house for their client that they've never seen in person, right? So here's what happens. Now, not all the time, but this happens. So the buyer found the house in Zillow, went to the open house, had their agent write an offer. They waived their home inspection. They waived their appraisal. They did an appraisal gap addendum, which said that they'll pay up to $50,000 and even more over appraised value to get the house. They borrowed money, or didn't borrow, they gifted. They got a gift from mom and dad. And 40% of the buyers were doing that. First-time buyers, up to 40% of them had to get money from mom and dad to buy the house. And then all of a sudden they get to the settlement table and they go, wow, whoa, man, look how much money you made. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Man, I had no idea that you were
they're-
making money.
Of course they're
Of course they're
frustrated.
getting paid, but they were surprised. They're like, well, what did you do? That's where a lot of the frustration is. And in some circumstances, the agent didn't do very much.
No. So we've got a question here. Question, do I need a buyer's agent if I buy a house with cash? And then goes on to say, will the listing agent charge me commission if I don't have an agent?
See, and these are a lot of these questions, first of all, depending on which state you're in, dual agency is not allowed. What dual agency means, and I'm talking about an agent, not a broker, because in Maryland, dual agency is not allowed from an agent. Broker, as a real estate broker, I can enter into a dual agency where I can represent both the buyer and seller as the broker. But I have to have a designated agent serving the buyer and a designated agent serving the seller, and they must not collude. They have to represent the broker. I'm a neutral. But the agents can't in Maryland represent both parties. I have been against agents representing buyers and sellers from the very beginning. I don't know how it's possible. I don't know how you can represent two conflicting parties. Seller wants the best terms and the most amount of money with the least amount of concessions. The buyer wants it all. The buyer wants a better price. They want better terms. They want the seller to do things. How can you represent both parties? I don't see how an agent can do that. But let's just take your question here, because this opens up a big, are they allowed to do dual agency? Does their state allow it? I think 13 states disallow it. Maryland disallows it. Does your state allow it? Then it comes down to whatever their fee agreement is with their seller as to whether the seller or the listing broker we have something in the MLS. It's called a variable rate compensation. And we got to check the box when we put a listing in that says, does this listing have a variable rate compensation? And what that really means is if the buyer doesn't have an agent, is there a financial incentive for them when they're buying this house? But this is what really comes down to a lot of the confusion here. So do you need a buyer's agent? I'm going to always say 100% yes. You need a great buyer agent.
We've got a follow-up. My buyer's agent told me it's not worth it for her and told me to just deal with a listing agent, small town Pennsylvania.
I mean, what can I say to that? If the agent, that's pretty crappy if that's what if your buyer's agent told you that. Everybody has to, where you guys can determine who you're going to work with as an agent can also determine who they're going to work with as a buyer and a seller. There are certainly people that I say were not a good fit. And if they're out of an area that I feel comfortable in serving them, I'm going to say you would be better off with somebody else. Mm-hmm. If I feel there's a conflict of interest, I would say you're better off with somebody else. If I'm not getting paid, I would have to look at my relationship, or if it's a low compensation, I would negotiate. Nobody wants to work for free. Look, we're entitled to make money. You don't want a business to work for free because then they go out of business, they go away, and it doesn't serve you any better. You want to make sure that you're getting your money's worth. You always have to feel like you're getting the value that you're paying, because if not, it's not a win-win. So, is your agent providing you value? And you have to define what that value is. And so would the agent would have to define. I see this happening where agents are going to say, hey, look, if the seller's not offering anything, I have to get paid, and we need to work this out. And maybe it comes down to the buyer's agent says, hey, this is what I'll do for you. You do this yourself. You find your own house. You go to your open houses. You drive around the properties and see if it's where you want to be or not. I don't want to just show up there and cart people around. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a conversation that has to be had.
Lots of agents aren't gonna. They're not gonna be okay with these laws that are gonna go into effect. They're gonna be like, I'm done.
One of the things that's proposed, I want to talk about the offering of compensation, because this is a big, and this is when I was talking with our attorney. Basically, what he was saying was that NAR is saying that as part of this, and NAR owns the MLS, the Board of Realtors, they own the MLSs, or the realtor-owned MLSs. There are other MLSs that are out there as well. But for the MLS, what I don't understand is, why can't a broker offer a compensation in the MLS, or the seller rather offer the compensation to a buyer's agent in the MLS? Why not? What's the problem with that? How does that help the public? Well, then they come back and say, well, then they could steer people to the higher paying commission. Well, they could do that anyway by calling up the agent and say, are you offering anything? It doesn't accomplish anything, in my opinion. But how can you tell a seller that they can't offer on the web, on the way that people shop and do business? How can you tell a seller you can't put a compensation on the MLS? Who's NAR to say that? You're the seller. If you want to entice a buyer or a buyer's agent to bring people by your place, you're the seller, you're the boss, you should be able to do that. So I think that's not, number one, I don't think that's going to fly.
Speaking of NAR, we got a question here. Who owns NAR?
It's an association. It's a trade association. It has a board, and they're they are the governing Association of Realtors. They own the MLS. You have the National Association of Realtors, you have the State Association of Realtors, and then you have the local jurisdictions, which I've talked to a couple of associations, and they were hoping that they could disenfranchise from NAR. They were hoping that that would happen so that they could come up with their own rules, blah, blah, blah. It's a politically powerful organization. It's been in business, I think, 116 years.
Yeah, it's been over 100 for sure.
And I don't think everything has been bad. I mean, come on. It hasn't all been bad. I think that what's happened is when you have an association or any kind of business that gets paid based on numbers, membership matters. So the more people that we can get as members, the more money you can charge for membership dues and things like that. Nobody wants to pay a lot of money for membership. So it's a tangled web. Mm-hmm. It's a tangled web. I think that what we're going to see is a lot of people I love the business. People are saying that they're quitting left and right. I'm talking to people. I've had to talk agents off the shelf, the agents that aren't even associated with a brokerage that have called me up and said, hey, I'm quitting. I've been in this business. I no longer love it. I have all these regulations. I'm like, you're quitting at the wrong time, because things I believe we're going to thin out the business. We're going to get a lot of people that shouldn't be in the business are going to leave. They're going to exit. Fees are going to go up, which is not a bad thing. Education is going to go up, which is not a bad thing. Brokers are going to have to get back involved again. And I've said this over and over and over again. Brokers made their agents their client, and that was a catastrophic mistake. The way it used to be in the day, in Charlton, how about this one? I'll say back in 1989. How's that?
He loves that.
We love Charlton.
Yeah, we do.
One of our great viewers, but he always gives me a hard time. I always say 1989. One of those back in the day.
Tim Langer as well. He's another one
that
loves the 1989.
But the deal is the way it used to be is the broker, they were everything. Brand mattered. In fact, it was very difficult for new brokers to come into the marketplace, because if you didn't have that brand recognition, buyers and sellers didn't trust it. They would call the office. They didn't call an agent. They called the office. And locally here, we had some big brands, Long & Foster, Connor Piper Flynn. These were rock solid brands. And if you didn't have that sign in the yard, it meant something. And it was because their leadership, their managers, their brokers, they were involved in the transaction, and they cared about the buyer, the seller, the landlord, the tenant, their client. We got so far away from that because we adopted this philosophy that we'll make the agent the client, make them our profit center, and we'll let whatever the hell happens. We'll let them run their businesses because they're independent contractors. And they gave them the keys to the kingdom, and they destroyed it. They ran it into the ground. I always say, I have friends of mine that inherited businesses. People born with silver spoons in their mouth is what they say, right? Mm-hmm. Their family's business, an empire. And then they take it over and they run it into the ground. Right? They destroy it because they didn't realize what it really took to serve clients and do business, and good business, and why good business was important. The same thing happened in our industry. We turned it over to the agents, and the agents destroyed it. And the brokers watched it happen, and they let it happen. And a lot of these brokerages, they did other things, like they started title companies, they started mortgage companies, and then they said to their agent, hey, which very questionable in a lot of ways as far as conflicts of interest, but maybe you could get your buyer to use our mortgage company because we're giving you everything. Maybe you get your buyer to use our title company. And they started setting up these other businesses because they gave everything away and they can't make any money. And now they've destroyed the business. This is a management, a leadership. This is a business catastrophic business failure. And now everybody wants to know, like, why? Why did we let this happen? I've always said brand matters. And it's probably one of the reasons why we don't have a lot of agents. Because when they find out that we care about the buyer and the seller on the other side, and we're going to like follow the transaction all the way to the end, they're like, screw that. We don't want to be held accountable.
Yeah.
We don't want to actually have to answer to you as the brokerage that's on the hook for everything that we do. So, that's, I'm disappointed in the way that the approach is here. I think this is going to be harmful to consumers. If it gets passed, it's going to tear this thing apart. I wasn't allowed to show you this. I talked to my attorney before I came on tonight, and I said, can I show this one form? And he said, no, it's not for consumer consumption.
Oh.
Okay.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah. So I said, okay, it's not meant for consumer consumption. Why do we have it? Well, are we going to show it to consumers or are we not going to show it to consumers? But, I got to respect what our attorney says. And, but basically the proposal that we're seeing, or some of the verbiage that is out there, is that the buyer will ask the seller to pay their agent's commission. And let's just say that the buyer agrees that they're going to pay their agent X amount of dollars. And then they go to look at this proposed legislation, or, change goes through. We're not allowed to advertise any commissions on the MLS. Then what happens is you're under contract with your buyer for X amount of dollars, and you find out that you want to go look at this house. So your agent calls the agent and says, hey, does the seller offer any compensation to me? And the agent says, no. The agent goes back to the buyer and says, this house down at 5 Main Street, you're going to have to pay it all. Well, then there's a proposal that says, well, let's come up with an addendum and let's ask the seller to pay me. What? You're already not getting a house because you're getting multiple offers, limited inventory right now. Now we're going to throw an addendum in there that says, by the way, if you accept my buyer's offer, we also want you to pay me. The seller's going to be like, no. I mean, maybe if we really get a tremendous paradigm shift that everybody's hoping for, that we love to see, more inventory, more competitiveness. But that's like, I don't know how that's going to work.
I don't know how that's going to be received. I mean, everyone knows it's coming, though. I mean, the document's there.
There's an article out. I want to show this article. What is it on? Wall Street Journal, Joe? We can pull it up. This is how ignorant people are. What's the title of this thing? The newest home buying puzzle. What to pay your real estate agent. Ooh. Getting it from the Wall Street Journal. What do you pay your agent? A settlement that stands to do away with real estate commission. No, commission rules, kind of, is rewriting the playbook for home buyers. Yeah, sure is. Let's look at this chart. This is the percentage of share of buyers who used a real estate agent or broker to buy their home. The large buyer back in 2009, if we're calculating that, were investors, and they didn't care. They didn't want to bring a real estate agent to the table. They were happy for the listing agent to make all of it because they just wanted the house because they were getting it for $50,000. They could fix it up and make a couple $100,000 on it because everybody was in foreclosure. And Wall Street companies were buying them up like crazy. But look what happened. By 2011, We were back up on top where most of the buyers used agents. And then what happened was somewhere around 21, it drops. And that's because most of their agents were working full-time jobs and you couldn't get a hold of them. Man, I just lost my third house because I can't get a hold of my agent. Screw you, agent. I'm just going to go to the listing agent and tell them I just want the house. That's what we saw happen then. And now we're back up again, almost 90% of the transactions where buyers are using buyer's agents. But let's go deeper. Because for the DIYers, good advice here on the Wall Street Journal, some tips for DIY buyers. If you're considering a home that is priced significantly more or less than comparable homes in the area, have a clear understanding of why that is, said Catherine Swanson, Associate Director for Home and Mortgage at Credit Karma. First of all, Credit Karma, I don't think they use Credit Karma when they're pre-qualifying people for mortgages. Maybe they do, but not to my knowledge. Secondly, what the hell does that mean? You think buyers actually understand this?
No.
They don't understand it. Most of the agents don't understand it. How are you going to get buyers to understand it? What you have to do is find good buyer agents that really can dive in and say, what's going on? I'm going down to a listing appointment on Thursday. I sold these people a house. They have to move. And because of work. One of the things I'm going to do is go through the houses that are for sale, because a lot of people will say, I mean, this is like unheard of. If you're a listing agent, do you do this? I'll look at what houses are available for sale that will be our competition, and I'll actually book an appointment and go see them, because I can't just go by what the agent says about it or what their pictures may or may not reflect online. How does a buyer understand what a home value is, whether it's up or down or whether it's good or bad? But let's look at tip 2. Sellers are typically required to disclose any known issues with their home and any remodeling work they did on the home. She said, request disclosures before you make an offer. Please, 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 please.
That's like opening yourself up.
Do you think the sellers are going to do it?
Oh.
Let me tell you, I'll tell you a little secret. Well, I'm not going to go into it, but I can't tell you how many times I said to a seller, you shouldn't have told me that, because now I have to disclose it. And they're like, why? I'm like, because that's a material fact. And you told me about it. They're like, yeah, but you work for me. It's like, no, the agent can be charged with not disclosing material facts. You got to sue a seller and prove it. An agent that's good is going to protect their sellers as much as they can by trying to say, hey, look, I walk into a basement, I look at the water line that's going around the drywall, and I say, has your basement ever leaked? And they go, no. I'm like, really? Okay, well, I'm not a water expert, but it looks like a water flooding expert, but it looks like a water line to me. So what am I going to do? I'm going to tell the buyers, in that case, the buyer's agent, I'm going to say, hey, by the way, just want to let you know, the seller says the basement never leaks, but when I went down in this basement, I would probably check that out and see if why, because of my professional opinion, it looks to me like it could be a water line. Sellers are typically required, please disclose. They may be required, but do they do it? No.
No.
Very few, I would imagine. You might need to find a closing attorney to review the contract and oversee the closing. Okay. I don't know what attorneys charge. Where are you going to get the contract? Staples?
Internet?
I mean, there's certain forms. There are area disclosures, county disclosures. Get an inspection. An inspection might uncover problems with the home's major systems. Let me tell you, a lot of the home inspectors are terrible. They took a course. I actually had a home inspector look at a property for one of my listings and said that the roofing nails were rusted, corroded.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
It's in a freaking attic that's unconditioned. Of course they are. What do you want them to pull out all the nails on the shingles? It doesn't leak. I know the owner of that home inspection company too. Not helping the buyers.
No.
Something stupid like that.
We do have some callers on deck.
We do?
Yes.
Wow, man.
Yep. We sure do.
Cool.
Would you like to bring them in?
Sure. I'm trying to figure out how to.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my... Dan, hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, doing.
I know. We've been doing lots of communicating.
Dan, what are you doing, dude? Where are you? What is the neon lights? What's all that cool stuff in the background?
That is my game streaming area. I stream on Rumble and YouTube games and tinker on stuff like I homestead, RC cars, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, so we're first-time home buyers. Obviously, Melissa, she's been in the mix trying to help us out. We're trying to get our training wheels off. We're trying to take what you had one of the lenders on the show, which we'd already been researching, but you guys triggered this, the 203K loan approach, because we would like to be able to get into a home that it would be fixed up with that 203K loan, and then that way it would be how we want it, and we wouldn't have to fix anything for a long time. Like it would, you know what I mean? And so that's the approach we thought made the most sense to us. But now we're seeing like all this stuff in the market, and then like it's like the 2008 stuff all over again, and now this stuff that's the rule changes. We got our credit up and stuff, and now we're like right where we need to be, and we will be ready by April. And so this is just, as a first-time home buyer, this stuff gets overwhelming, like trying to read the rules for stuff and like, you know, how to ask for concessions, and then like it's a complicated process, and or how to add what I'm sorry, I had a stroke, so sometimes I get a little word jumbled here. Like trying to, like, so say like a house needs an AC system or a new roof, or it needs a septic, you know, because you're looking at fixer-uppers. And so how do you offer on that? And then for us, we're looking for something rural with a shop and no neighbors. Like, we're being very specific, but we're empty nesters. She's going to be working from home. And so we're like the world is our oyster when it comes to whatever state we move to. And so we're just trying to, like you're always saying on the show, like marry the home. And, so this just, it's overwhelming. And then you just have a lot of questions, and unfortunately some of the questions, there's not a lot of help.
Well, the first thing when you're doing, Dan, the first thing when you're doing a 203K loan, it's so that when they came out with this loan program, it's a very, it's a hard loan to, number one, right now, it's hard to get a seller to accept it because very few lenders even know what they're doing with it. They're not specialists in 203K. And,
right.
And a lot of it is you cannot be your own contractor. And that knocks a lot of people out.
I'm fine with that. You know what I'm saying? What I thought would lure a seller of a fixer-upper is they're not having to pay for it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
the way
in a lot of cases, they're not going to pay for it. But what happens is there's specific guidelines in order to get this approved. And what it boils down to is it puts a lot of pressure on a buyer. I'm not saying it doesn't work, because it does work and I've seen it work. But what happens is you have to very quickly decide what needs to be done with the house, number one. And number two, you got to make all of your buying decisions up front, because you have to list out what changes you're going to make, what the costs are going to be. You have to have a licensed contractor, and
Right.
they have to break down and a lot of contractors don't do this, but they have to break down what's the labor and what's the material cost for every line item that is in that work order or that contract. And then their appraiser has to get involved. They have to appraise it at what it's worth when it's finished. And then you're entering into like a construction to perm loan.
Right,
Where
and if you're allowed to go 30% over the value of the home, like if you're doing a 203K or something, is what I read during the rules. It's complicated. But that's why we're, like trying to like understand that situation, because what we can afford, like for what we're wanting to do, it just financially makes more sense to try to go that route than. Because, what we're looking for, you just aren't going to find at current prices without.
Well, the benefit of it is you build it all into your mortgage, right? So
Exactly.
as opposed to just giving them a low offer because the house needs a lot of work, and then how do you get the cash to do the repairs? So the idea or the concept is very good.
Yes.
I think that the question is going to be, is it a good time for a 203K loan right now? I don't know your market, but it's not a very practical alternative for a lot of buyers at this point. Now, we see a lot of inventory. We start seeing a lot of distressed homes where they're not livable. Then that's a viable option, because the seller knows that either an investor is going to buy it or a retail buyer and they give the retail buyer the opportunity, because maybe the retail buyer is going to give them more what they want, versus an investor is going to come in, pay cash, and lowball them. When you're looking at houses that need 203K type of renovations for a retail buyer, which is what you are, you're going to live in the house, you're directly competing with those flippers, those rehabbers, those buy to rent type of buyers. And that's what makes it difficult, because it's going to take 45 to 60 days, best case scenario, to close that loan.
Right, and that part we have the luxury of not having to hurry to move.
But the seller doesn't want to wait.
Right, and that's the other part. Like where you're saying they want to get paid.
Yeah. Seller's like, I don't want to wait 60 days potentially to get my money. I've got a guy here who's going to write me a check, and it's $10,000 less, but I'm ready to take the cash.
Right. And so we're just in a situation where we're not, we're just trying to find the best angle of attack. As first time home buyers, you just kind of are trying to play within the rules of the game and work, trying to work within your means. And, we're looking in rural areas, like I said, versus trying to live in a city area where you'd probably have to drive an hour or more to maybe get to a city. So, that's going to push away a lot of buyers or people wanting to rent it out.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's not close to conveniences.
Yep. I hear you, buddy. Well, look, you stay close to us, and we appreciate you calling in, and we wish you the best, and keep us in the loop.
Oh, yes, sir. And thank y'all.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right, so let's take a couple questions. Then we got Charles on deck?
Yeah,
Is that one?
we do.
Okay.
We had a question that just came in that I think would be perfect. Actually, I do want to take this first super chat. I went through you guys when looking at buying a house, and you saved me from making a big mistake. Thank you, David, very
Excellent.
much
Thank you
for
so
that.
much.
And then we also had a second one here. Todd, what do you think about Redfin CEO advocating direct to buyer selling, no buyer agents?
Yeah. Look, I think that we're going to see, and we're working on a couple programs that we're going to be marketing and advertising. We're trying to fine tune the details, but we're going to get in front of this thing. And we've always been about serving our client. We're going to do what's best for our client. And it's very difficult and they're probably they're in all the states, but I don't know that they're in all states, but they're in a lot of the states where they can do dual agency. So there would just be feeding people straight to an agent that is their client. In this case, by the way, I think Redfin, they used to have salaried agents. I think they stopped that. I have a good friend of mine that works for them. But I do believe that they have announced that they're going to stop that, and now all agents are on commission. You guys can check Google for that. They're a publicly traded company, so they put everything out there. But I would never. I think this is a slippery slope. Let's just talk about this for a second. We're already saying that what we have to do is prevent the agent from getting in the way of the sale. But do we do that at a cost of the buyer throwing them into the lion's den? That's the big question here. And if you guys don't think that, let's go to our poll. We had a poll out there because I wanted to know what you guys think about agents. And let's see what everybody says. The big risk is that, here we go, what do we got? All right, so 593 votes. So the question is, your experience dealing with real estate agents. Mostly good, 30%, so-so, 38%, mostly terrible, 25%.
It's a quarter.
That's a lot of people. I'm an agent and I love myself. I had to put that in. All right, so what we're doing is if we're encouraging buyers to not have representation, if in fact that's what Redfin is doing, to me that would be a slippery slope. But here's the big thing. Let's suppose, and this is one of the things, the conversations that we have to the sellers out there. We have to say to the seller, look, if this goes through, what is it that you want to offer? Do you want to offer buyer's agent a compensation? What are most sellers going to say maybe? Probably nothing. Do we have to? We have to offer them anything. The question is going to be, will you get the same amount of traffic to your house? That's the question. The seller may come back and say, we should have offered, I'm not selling my house. And now I've got to reduce my price, and it's your fault because you didn't encourage me to pay a commitment. I mean, there's all kinds of scenarios here that just stink. There's nothing wrong with the way the current system is if there's disclosure and transparency. That's been the breakdown. But why are we going to eliminate a system that could work just fine? First of all, buyers are already stressed out enough. They have no money. Most of them don't have any money in the bank account. They're working on getting their credit score up. They want to buy a house, and now all of a sudden this, and we're going to say, whoa. Well, the administration is going to say, well, you might be able to save $10,000 now. At what cost? Don't be surprised if we go in a complete different direction here. We're already working on some things to help you buyers and sellers. Because should you be in a position to where you're not going to use an agent, I know somebody that can help you with some advice, and it's not what we just saw in the Wall Street Journal. We have to be prepared for anything that could happen in this business. And my commitment is to the public, is to my people, or to my followers, or to my clients. That's where I'm just saying. I get up a lot and ask myself, what am I doing? What am I doing? You know, I feel like sometimes I'm banging my head into a wall. Let's talk to Charles.
Let's talk to Charles. Charles, you're muted. Oh, camera off.
Oh. Can you guys hear me?
We got
can
ya.
hear you.
Cool. Okay, you can see me now. Cool. So, just a heads up, my company, we're supposed to be more busier now, and we're still stacking empties. So, for a trucking company, and also Pride went under. Pride Transportation, they're filed bankruptcy for reorganization. So, when they say the economy's doing great, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about, or I don't know what they're talking about. So, but just to give you guys like my thing about, so like when I was trying to buy a house like 2 years ago, I had one realtor, and then she had another realtor help me out, and oops, I keep turning the camera, and so the one that was like going with me up into the mountains, one because she lived in the mountains, and two was a little bit closer to her. But she would go with me and set up meetings on all this stuff. So I kind of wish I bought a house under her so she can get paid for it. But unfortunately, we weren't a year, and I was like, the economy's going south, home prices still high, and I live in California. And now I'm glad I didn't, because tax rates went up on those houses, and so did insurance, if not dropped already. So, and then the realtor that I'm dealing with now, Master's like, yeah, if you find a place, just let me know, and we'll work out the details. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's kind of hit or miss. But
What is that? How does that make you feel?
the problem is that she lives like an hour south of where I was looking at, and it's up in the mountains, and it would cost her like a lot of time and gas money to get up there. So that I can understand. But she was like, you find a place, or when I put it on hold. So I'm not talking to her right now. But I put it on hold. And then, but before that, she was like, hey, go up there, go look. If you find a place, let me know. We'll go up there. We'll look together. And then I'll bring paperwork that everyone can sign. I'm like, all right, cool. So I understood like it was pretty far from her, but then I also understood like the other lady that was up in the mountains was also willing to like set up a whole schedule, and we go look at like 5 or 6 houses in a day on a weekend. So
Yeah.
it kind of just I think it's more hit or miss, and also I understand that she has to drive far. So
You know, I mean, Charles, I mean, look, you know, the problem that I have with that is that the agent has no idea where you're moving to or where you're looking. It doesn't know anything about the area.
She knows what I was looking at. And when I talked to my broker, because the broker's really communicative, and I talked to the broker here or there, and she was like, you've actually found the one place in California that might be going down. But she's like, at the same time, there's no housing crash, so it's not like you can get
But does she know?
a better price.
Does she know the planning and zoning? What is scheduled to happen there in the next couple of years? Does she know what's going on? Does she know that there's a subdivision that may be going across the street with 25 homes? Does she know that there's a new employer that's coming to an area, or that there's a loss of a? And this is the thing. So agents actually should know what is going on in the area that they're helping a client in. And that's the problem that I have with that. I mean, it's now, if you're okay with that, but so one of the things, so we had a sales meeting today, and this is a great conversation. We had one of the best sales meetings we've ever had. This is a great conversation. We had one of the best sales meetings. I'm hearing an echo. I don't know what. So anyway, we had a question that was asked that said, look, can you give examples of how agents can sell their value? Seems pretty obvious to me, but okay, let's go ahead and run down the list. Well, if I'm a buyer's agent, if I say to a buyer, okay, this is a typical conversation that I have with buyers. All right, look, you're obviously looking on Zillow or Realtor.com or one of those other sites. I'm learning what criteria you want in an area that I'm familiar with or comfortable with so that I can keep an eye on it too. But I always say, look, are you going to stop looking at Zillow? And no, they're not going to stop. Okay, great. So do you want me to replicate what you're already doing? Do you want me just to put you in the MLS because I'm lazy? And do you want me just to list out, put you in a list, and you tell me you want a house that has a first floor owner suite? And then all of a sudden, I just put in this broad brush stroke of property searches, and I send you on this automated email search that you're getting duplicates of what you're already looking at on Zillow. And you look at these and go, why is Todd, is he like an idiot or something? This house doesn't have a first floor owner suite. He's sending me this, he's sending me that. No, it's just I'm too lazy to look at the properties myself. So what I'm going to do for my buyers, and this is what I always tell them, I say, look, here's what I'm going to do for you. I'd rather not send it to you. You look for houses, and I'm going to look for houses for you. And every day I'm going to scour down through, and if I see something that meets what I think your criteria is, so I don't frustrate you, I'm going to send it to you and say, hey, maybe we should check this out. Keep looking for houses too. But that doesn't mean that I don't know anything about the area. I had a buyer that went through an open house. The listing agent went up here, and this is buyer beware. Listing agent represented this builder that bought this house, rehabbed the house, and was selling the house. I spoke about this on a podcast a couple weeks ago. The buyer calls me up. They figured they could do it without a buyer's agent. Calls me up and says, hey, I was talking to a friend of mine. They said I should call you. Great. Here's what happened. I don't trust this listing agent. We were asking some questions, and she wasn't really giving us a straight answer. Like, great. Well, there was a driveway that broke off. There was a farm in the back and a driveway that served a couple different houses. And I said, well, first thing I said was, there's a shared driveway. Was there a driveway agreement? What kind of agreement is there for the driveway? She's like, I have no idea. She didn't mention that. I called the agent up. I said, is there a driveway agreement? People that are looking at this house, and you have a shared driveway here. What's the deal with the shared driveway? She said, I don't know. I think there is, but I think they keep it clean. It snows, they plow it. Somebody clears it. I call up the county, and I said, hey, is there anything on record for this location or whatever that I see this, is there a driveway agreement that's out there? They said, oh, well, there's a whole subdivision of 26 houses getting ready to be built directly behind this house. And by the way, that driveway is going to become 2 lanes with walking sidewalks, and the property lines have been completely redefined, and it's not recorded yet, but it's been approved. I called this agent back. I said, you're going to lose your license. Why aren't you disclosing this information to people? This is the problem when people do business in areas where they don't know. They don't know what's going on. And you know what the agent told me? I said, did you know there was going to be a subdivision? Your seller has bought the freaking property. Did you know he's going to build 26 houses? And she said, no. How the hell do you not know that? This is the hazard. So now all of a sudden you buy a house an hour and a half from your agent, and you move in, and you get out of that beautiful rural setting. You see a field across the street, and you're like, man, I'm telling you, Todd, this place is the bomb.com, man. It's exactly what I want. I can look out, I see the deer, I walk across the street and hunt. And all of a sudden you get up one morning, you go outside, and you see these little stakes in the ground, and the flags are waving. You're like, what's this? Like, oh yeah, it's a new subdivision. It's going to go across the street. What's the first thing that you're going to say? Why did my agent know that? That's valid, right?
Yep. To be fair, the place I'm looking at, there are a bunch of older houses, and I don't think anyone's building anything up there anytime soon because it's in the mountains, so it would cost them a lot. And it's in California, so it's going to take them even at least 4 or 5 years to even get that done. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I've never gotten to any one of these houses close enough to even.
How did you
be
pick
like,
your
okay,
agent?
so it's someone I had known. So I was a mover, and I had helped her out with some side jobs, helping some people move by myself, and she'd always try to help out all of her clients with getting their stuff moved or whatever it is they needed done. So I just did some side stuff for her, and then also the person I worked for knew her really well. So I was like, oh, she's probably a good agent then, because she actually cared about it. Because she's like, these people, they're older, they need some help. I'll pay you part of whatever it is that is owed to you, whatever, blah, 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 blah. So she would help them out. And so to be fair, and she also told me, hey, you might want to save up 10,000 for closing costs just in case. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So,
well, look, I wish you the best with that. But you started out with saying that the company that you're working for, I think, is like feeding everybody a bunch of crap. I think that's happening a lot. We're starting to see where.
Oh no, it's not my company. My company is doing what they're needing to do to keep their employees working. So I still make pretty well. I mean, it's because my own work ethic is the reason why I make good money. But I still make good money. But it's what it is like the whole like administration news, like, oh, the economy is great, but then we're still stacking containers in the yard or in like other yards. And then also you have Pride Transport, which I think technically their headquarters in Canada, but they do a lot of work in the US. And that's like, I think at least 1,000 trucks, so at least 1,000 drivers. And not to mention they have a bunch of forklift drivers that work for them, a bunch of land they own. So, and they're going under because they were doing great. And then whatever happened after, and then all the free money stopped rolling from the governments. So then they were like, and then I think technically pay per mile is like $1.45. And so that dropped extremely low from where it was during the pandemic, which is like $3, $4, or $5 per mile. So it's not just like, it's not like through their own, like Yellow, yes, it was through their own mismanagement, but Pride is like, no, we just can't handle this. And then they bought a company in 2022, another trucking company in 2022, which added a lot more trucks to their load, and they just thought it would still be fine. I didn't expect this kind of slowdown. And my company was projecting it to start picking up 2 quarters from now, so at least fall, but we're still stacking containers. So we're either their projections are off because it's worse than what people thought, and it matches.
Dude, it's going to get really bad.
Yeah.
Freightwaves
said the same thing. It's going to be bad for 2 more quarters.
The crap's going to hit the fan. We're going to be bad for a decade the way that we've been. I mean, here's the problem. And this is the problem. This is the problem. Employers can't just pay people more money.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Well, it's the same thing in California when they're like, oh, well, now fast food has to pay $20 an hour. And it's like, okay, you're just going to automate jobs. That's all you're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely crazy. And then also I've seen videos of actual, I think it's only one right now. It's in Austin, and they're still testing it out. But they're having automatic, they're now starting to build automatic yards. Like yard drivers would no longer be doing yard stuff. It would now be robots and AI doing it. And right now it's being tested out in Austin, Texas. I think one of the ports, they're trying to automate one of the ports in California right now. So that's going to be a ton of jobs. It's just, I think we're in for a whole new economy, and people just don't understand, and they're refusing to see what's coming.
Yeah, I agree with you, brother. Well, we appreciate you, Charles, and you stay safe out there.
Can I just ask him a quick
go
question?
ahead.
Charles, really quick, just because not everyone knows, what does it mean to stack containers?
So the containers that come from the ports, like the one that was on that ship that crashed into that bridge in Baltimore. So those containers, the shipping containers. So what we do is we take them to a yard, and they get stacked up about like 5 high. So
And they're
not only
empty?
do we have, yep, they're all empty. So we take containers, we stack up all the empties. On the West Coast, I think there's like 3 major hubs for my company where they do stacking. It's like East Coast, California, and then I think Texas. And so like places like Pennsylvania, where they don't have room for that, and they're not a big hub anyways, since we're nationwide, they'll send all their empty containers down to like LA, San Bernardino, and then we'll go get them stacked up into a separate yard owned by BNSF.
Thank you for that.
All right, buddy. Well, we appreciate you. Thanks, Charles, for calling in.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a couple questions. And then we got Victor on tap.
Perfect. So how about this one? Question: as a seller, I'm not if I'm not privy to the agreement between the buyer and their agent, how can I possibly offer to help? They might already being paid adequately.
I mean, how do you know? I don't, right now, I think that, first of all, the Department of Justice has made it clear that they did, and in multiple publications and on the record, where they did not want the buyers to have to pay for the commissions. Buyers are tapped out. This is coming at the worst possible time that this could ever happen in the most unaffordable housing market that we've ever seen in the history of housing. I've said it before, even in the great financial crisis, we didn't have the lack of affordability. At the peak in 2006, at the peak of home prices, the median income earner could still afford the median priced home. This is the first time since they've been tracking this metric, NAR, for the last 25 years or so, that we have dipped below that affordability index nationwide. We're seeing this show up in new home construction. The construction methodology is garbage. I was just looking at the siding on new construction, the OSB, the 5/8 siding. You can put your fist through it. It's junk. These builders, I showed a house that is a new build, new construction, and I was asking them about the returns in the bedroom area. There was only one return on the third floor of the house where the bedrooms are, 3 bedrooms. And there's no returns, even in the owner's suite, there's no return. And a hot summer like what we have here, you have a return in a room that draws out in the heating and air system. It sucks out hot air so that it can efficiently cool a room down. Well, do you want efficient heating and air conditioning in your bedroom where you spend a third of your life? I mean, this is like asinine. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And they're sacrificing $500,000, $600,000 boxes of horribly built, in my opinion, houses. Craftsmanship's, that's
Subpar.
another story. Huh? That's
Subpar.
another story. Let's build the cheapest garbage that we can and charge the most amount of money for, because we don't care whether it actually lasts or works or holds up or cools down, in this case, after the buyer's spending $5,000 a month for their mortgage payment, not counting their HOA fees. And I said to the salesperson, I said, I have a question for you. I see you drywalled this house, and I don't see like even a pass-through, like a hole cut over the door with 2 vent screens on it to suck the air out. And she said, I'm surprised at that. I think we do in the model. Let me call him, and the construction manager, and ask him. I said, yeah, do we cut these pass-throughs over the door? You know what she said to me? She said, in Baltimore County, it's not required by the county. It's not required that you put flooring in either. I mean, you could leave plywood if you wanted to. I mean, but would you do it? We're talking about 3 doors, maybe $100 in material cost, and a razor blade to cut the hole opening. It's ridiculous, but this is what we're seeing. And, it's, I would never hire an agent, by the way, to help me buy a house that's an hour and a half away from them, that they don't have any idea, and they just say, go ahead and do your shopping and call me, and I'll show up with some forms. I love you, Charles, but I wouldn't do it. That's not my advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have a comment here. In defense of real estate agents, customer service in the 21st century has been less than helpful. It seems as if sales and service reps are distracted, no follow through, and a general lack of empathy.
How's that defending real estate agents? And the most expensive purchase is somebody pays $5,000-$6,000 a month for. How is that acceptable? You might accept that from your hamburger shop. You might accept that from your pool cleaner or whoever else you might hire, or the gas station clerk that's taking your money through plexiglass. How do we accept that? How are we defending that? Oh, by the way, let's defend the real estate agents and their defense. Customer service sucks all around. I'm sorry. Tamara, I don't agree with you. I appreciate your comment, but I don't agree with it.
Better.
This is an action that needs to happen. All the brokers and all the managers need to be culpable and responsible and take control of their companies and satisfy their clients.
Got a question.
This may be why I'm not in this business for very long. I think it's almost time for me to retire.
Not yet. Found a listing I'm interested in purchasing. However, I have reached out to the listing agent with phone calls, text messages, and emails over the last few weeks with no response. Any suggestions? This is what we deal with all the time.
Join the club.
Yep.
I can't get a hold of people. I remember not that long ago, I had a buyer that wanted to buy this house and put an offer in, but they had a couple questions. In 3 days, the agent still hadn't called me back. 2 calls later and an email. Found a listing I'm interested in purchasing. However, I reached out to the listing agent with phone calls, text messages, and emails over the last few weeks. What I would do is call the broker. Call the broker.
Yep.
Tell them. And you'll be lucky if they care or if you can get a hold of them.
Should we bring in Victor?
Yeah, let's bring Victor in. Victor Ashley.
Hey, Victor.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
Hey.
I can do your intro better than you can do it, huh? From Seattle, Washington. I got to tell you, though, buddy, I was, on my trip out there, I wasn't as disappointed in Seattle as I was in Portland, Oregon. I thought Portland, Oregon was way worse than
they
Seattle.
cleaned it up for you, Todd.
Huh?
They cleaned it up for you, Todd.
They cleaned it up for me.
Nice side of town. Yeah.
I thought the city was beautiful.
Yeah. Hey, I apologize. I just am getting over COVID here, so I might be a little hoarse. So if I'm coming off, poorly, that's where we're at. But hey, I'm doing some of the numbers out here in Seattle. This into the value proposition and everything that you talked about earlier. You have to know. You have to know your business. You have to know your market. And I'm in the business of educating my people, and that's really what it comes to. So I'm sitting here, I'm doing the numbers, today, listening to you guys, and I'm seeing the numbers, just the closed sales from this year to last year inside of Seattle, are down a little, and I'm looking at that as a couple of different things. I'm hearing a lot in my market, at least, because our average home sale is like $1.1 million out here. We're seeing that just things are slowing down quite a bit. I'm hearing a lot of fervor in the mortgage applications, and the mortgage people I talk to, they're like, hey, don't worry, I got like 6 or 7 applications. I was like, they might be from the same people. You got to be careful with that, because when I'm going out there with my buyers, I know my buyers, they spend 3 to 4 applications out there for individual brokers when they're getting their mortgage applications done. So whenever I see the mortgage applications tick up, that's usually what I'm actually seeing.
You can't get accurate data.
No,
everybody's cooking the books, man.
Yeah, there's no accurate data right now at all. And my numbers that I pull directly, that I give to my people and my clients, and people that watch my little YouTube channel, I actually pull the numbers directly from the MLS, and I'm posting them. And this is a lot of work. Just the Seattle document alone is
you can't even pull it off the MLS
lines.
You have to do the work yourself. Yeah. It's the most complex thing. It's like I wanted back in the day, you could actually go in and make it easy to search for listings that have had price reductions. Well, they screwed that up. They altered that. You can't do it anymore. It's very convoluted, very hard to do. If I want to look at, what are these listings that are, because if I have a buyer and the buyer is on a budget, and, most of the buyers are like, man, I really would love to buy this house, but it's out of my budget. But if it sits on the market long enough, maybe the sellers will wake up and, because they're overpriced. I went to one yesterday. I couldn't believe it. It was listed for $700,000, or I think it was $699,999.99. It was ridiculous. And they advertised it as, hey, it's under $700,000. I was like, wow, well, that's great. Well, I mean, there was only a couple problems with the property. One, you could hear tractor trailer trucks screaming down the road behind it. And it's been on the market for 30 days. And my buyer was like, hey, let's just go take a look at it anyway. And I was like, well, you're not going to, you don't like traffic, but let's go see it. And so we did. I love this guy. And we went and we looked at it. And I'm like, man, what is this agent even? I want some of it. Whatever they're doing, I want to be just like them or feel just like them when they actually can say that, hey, this house is priced under $700,000. I'm looking at it, I'm like, what doesn't this house need? It needs everything. It's outdated. It's a horrible floor plan. It's this, it's that. I could go on and on and on and on. My opinions, of course. Somebody might like it. But I'm thinking to myself, we're going to target and watch this property maybe, right? So, but I want to see a quick glance of what properties have had price reductions. Should be fair enough. Why can't I pay all this money to be on the MLS, pay all this money for the data, accuracy and numbers? I'm a pro. I'm a professional. You should help me out, serve my client. I want to show them what sellers very easily in a snapshot have had price reductions. I can't do it. I used to be able to do it. They changed it around. Now I have to go into all these steps to make it happen. You make it so difficult on me to actually see the real numbers. The multiple listing service. Go one step further. I want to know who decides on all this stuff. Where does technology fees go? How much money do they spend in technology? We're in a freaking day of the internet. Why is this so antiquated? Why do I have to wait to see these backward-looking numbers? They make excuses and say, well, we have to give the agents time to update their listing. That's bullshit, because what you do is fine the agent if they don't do it. So it's not true that you're giving them time to update the information. What you're doing is making it hard for me to advise my client on trends going up or down. And that is rant number 22.
One thing that I'm noticing in our MLS out here, because we're not an NAR MLS out here in Northwest MLS.
Come on.
Yeah, we're not an R one at all.
I don't believe it.
No, we are.
Prove that to me.
Yeah, we're not. We're not NAR owned.
How'd you do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not on the board.
Make the least expensive house $1.5 million?
I guess that's what we needed to do. But the other one the other big one that I know of is Colorado. So both Washington and Colorado got ahead of this. We already have a decoupling specifically of the commission.
You're already deconnected?
Yeah, it's already in there.
Deconnected from what?
Yeah, is correct.
I'll stay on.
There's a lot of conversation going on this, and I'm not versed well enough to actually do these.
What does that mean? Tell us what it means to not have an MLS. So can you just not be a member of the National Association of Realtors? That would be great.
Correct.
Is that the way
I'm
it
not
is?
I'm not a NAR member. I'm not.
What?
Yeah, I'm not.
Come
a NAR
on, man.
realtor.
You're not a realtor?
I'm not a realtor. No.
All right. So I might not quit.
No.
I might move to Seattle.
I'm not a realtor. No. And
I think it rains too
my
much
brokerage,
there
we're the largest non-NAR inside of Washington.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's over 1,300 of us. But
that
at
is
the same
amazing.
time, there's not. And this is one of the issues that we're seeing inside of our brokerage, is because a lot of the people that join my brokerage specifically, and I'm not going to use the name specifically, for purposes, I'm not representing them. A lot of the persons that join us do ones and twosies. We don't have a lot of full-time agents.
We got that too, but they still pay their dues.
Yeah, and our dues are actually very, very low. But at the same
Who do you
time,
pay?
we're not
You
a part
pay
of
you pay a
NAR,
board,
you
a
know.
local board. So is your MLS owned by your local board?
Our MLS has its own board that's not NAR.
What is the name of your MLS?
Northwest MLS.
What is it called?
Northwest MLS.
Northwest.
West.
They need to come to the Northeast.
Yeah.
How long has it been that way, though, Victor?
I don't know the specifics to that, but
I mean, is it recent with?
no, it's been
Oh.
it's been member owned, so it's not owned by NAR.
Wow. That's that. I tell you what,
Interesting.
Victor,
Yeah,
that
and
you
that's-
just taught me
and
something
I've
tonight.
said, before, because I'm part of your guys', brokerage network. Yeah, I'm not a realtor.
Yeah, man. I
I'm
tell
one of
you,
those few out here that can do that.
of course, National Association of Realtors probably listening to this and like, well, we'll just get rid of you. We'll just cancel your membership tomorrow. And I'd be like, well, that'd be cool, but I how will I get in? How do I get in? How do I get into the properties? How do I get my properties on the MLS? I mean, maybe that will just push me to the edge of just education and educating buyers and sellers and agents at that point. Maybe. That would do it. Somebody said, I have been become increasingly angry over the last couple of, did they say weeks? It's been the
Few
last couple of
months.
years, man. It hadn't just been
few
months.
months. They must be
I'm
new.
not
They're
angry.
new here?
I'm not angry. Look,
Yeah.
let me
I don't
tell you,
really
I'm
know.
really not angry. I'm really not an angry person.
Well, one thing that I want to know, Todd, is like, how is this going to really affect the wholesalers out there? Because
Wholesalers?
I don't wholesale, and personally, I am against it, but I do know that there's a lot of people talking about that right now. And
Wholesalers.
also for Washington, for stated, just so you know what's going on, we are in a limited dual agency state out here. So,
Well, let me tell you what I think about wholesalers.
and I do not do dual
Right.
agency.
Let me tell you what I think about wholesalers, because I even have a video about this. At one point, Maryland was thinking about outlawing wholesalers to operate without a real estate license, and they squashed it. The bill, they squashed it. There is first of all, in all 50 states and the District of Columbia, to sell real estate. And this is where the wholesalers are going to be like, you're just an angry. Maybe you're a wholesaler. You're saying, I'm angry. I'm really not angry. I'm just trying to give you guys the facts. If that comes across angry, well, frustrated may be more of an accuracy. But let's talk about wholesalers for a minute, because here's the problem. And a lot of agents are wholesalers. You need a real estate license to sell real estate in all 50 states, including the District of Columbia. But there's a loophole where they don't sell real estate. They're selling a contract. Give me a freaking break. If you go to a seller and you say to them, I'll buy your house, or I'm going to put a contract in to buy your house, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to hustle some buyers up, and I'm going to transfer the contract to the buyer, how are you not selling a house? You're selling a contract. Well, I guess the lawyers have twisted that around, and to the benefit of the wholesalers, and hey, take advantage of it. But I don't agree with it. I think you should need a license. What I also think is if you're a wholesaler and you have a real estate license, you're treading on very thin ice. Because what happens is, when do you turn on and off your duty as a licensee to bring that seller the most amount of money? You put an assignment fee on the deal. You only care about getting your contracted amount and your assignment fee. You're not putting it out to the multiple listing service to get the most eyeballs on the property and bring the highest and best price to your seller. That's my opinion. And that really aggravates the wholesalers too.
Yeah,
I really
and
don't
personally,
like
I don't engage in wholesaling, and I don't engage in dual agency.
Why'd you ask?
I just want to know. I want to stir the pot today, Todd.
Stir the pot. Fair enough.
Well, thank you very much.
No problem, buddy. We appreciate you, man. We
Thanks,
thank you,
Victor.
Victor. We wish you the best. We get better, man.
Yeah.
Get better. We want to see you well. And if you guys are looking in the Seattle area, check out Victor Ashley. He's an amazing agent. He's in our network. And by the way, we do have an amazing network of agents. Go to SachsRealty.com. And if you want some really cool gear like Melissa's wearing, I don't know. I forgot to change.
Yeah, we have some half zips.
Can you pull down that
gosh.
large screen TV that you have in front of yourself that you
little
call a
bit.
laptop
A little
computer?
bit.
Show everybody this cool gear.
That's my shirt.
Still don't think they can see you.
Oh gosh,
Come
that's
on,
good.
man.
That's good enough. We're good. We don't. I don't need to be modeling
got issues.
shirts. I'm not modeling shirts
sorry.
tonight. I'm not modeling
right.
shirts.
If you guys want our cool gear, everybody loves our shirts. You can go to SachsRealty.shop, or you can get them right down there right on YouTube, down at the bottom. You can order our cool gear. They're in perfect time for the nice spring weather. We got some short
Perfect.
sleeves, some golf shirts,
Yes.
things like that. And we think they're cool gear. Always high quality. We don't do anything else except for high quality here.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you guys. Hey, man, we just got I don't even have it here, but I just want to say thank you guys for being such great listeners and a loyal audience. You have helped us to hit over 100,000 subscribers to our channel.
Yeah. Oh, there you are, Todd.
Man, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Don't give me access to the keyboard.
Gosh.
I don't know, man. My laptop's smaller than you, so my thumbs are too big. I guess I need a bigger laptop. But we thank you
okay.
guys. We got an award from YouTube, showed up last week for hitting 100,000 subscribers. We are so blessed and thankful of that. And we thank you for everything that you guys represent out there. And we're glad to be able to bring you good quality content, the truth, things that come sometime at a premium in today's world to actually get accurate reporting of what's going on out there. Mm-hmm. And great agents like Victor. But let's take some more questions. Maybe somebody has a question for Victor.
Let's see. There was some question about the I-5, traffic on the I-5. But let's see here. Let's do this one. D.R. Horton is forcing people to close on their houses before completion. How is this even legal?
Well, D.R. Horton sells spec houses.
Mm-hmm. I do know that.
So they build the house the way they want it to build it, and you buy it like that, and you accept it the way that it is. At least that's my experience with D.R. Horton. But I don't know about them making you close before completion. I mean, I would hope that you would be getting a use and occupancy permit before any lender is going to write a loan on it. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that.
No. I mean, how are you even having a final walkthrough? How are you even checking your things?
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing that.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, I don't know.
Yeah. Question for Victor, though. We'll have this one right here. Question for Victor. Does that MLS have agreements with Zillow, et cetera, to provide them with listing info?
It does. It does, actually. In your listing agreement, in your forms, I'm not a managing broker, but I will tell you this. But yes, in your listing agreements, you can have it specifically. There's a couple of check boxes. You can have it be advertised for blogging. You can have it advertised for internet access or not. You can take your pictures off of the MLS also after close if you want that as well.
I mean, you can do that, I think, on any MLS. It's a dog and pony show to make it happen. And that's a big privacy problem right now. A lot of people are like, man, I don't want somebody to know where our bedrooms are, where the, access is. You can walk through the house. It's an issue. We've had people that have, that have requested it. And you can request to have your pictures removed. The problem is we know it that nothing ever goes away from the internet. So it's almost impossible to have something that has been published taken down. I don't know. I don't think it is possible. So, welcome to the New World Order. But the interesting thing is, then you're probably excluded from this lawsuit. So you can get sued.
Well, it is, and this is something, again, I can't speak to this specifically, but the Northwest MLS is right now, they might be voluntarily going into the opt-in under the settlement. So that would exclude them from the lawsuit. So there's an opt-in, and I was just reading through the document on this. That's not public facing, but this is a document provided by the MLS to the agents. But they are considering right now opting in to the lawsuit settlement.
Yeah.
And also, you know, this is where I try to stay in my lane too, because like I don't want to get on social media and start talking about this, especially with, you know, the fact is like I don't represent
You're doing that
anyone
right
more
now
than myself, you know.
Yeah,
I know I
you
am
are
Jay, but
talking
we're
a
live,
lot,
by the way.
Victor.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm not going out there taking my selfie stick and talking about this, you know, out there for everyone else. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is something that, you know, coming down from the brokerages with the MLS also, this is very specific. But back to the question, yes, your listings can show up on the MLS as well as Zillow, as well as Redfin and Realtor.com, as long as you have that advertisement box checked.
Somewhere in here, it talks about non-realtor owned MLSs. And I think the MLS basically has to pay 100 times its membership. So, for instance, let's say in 2022, I think is the date when more realtors got in the business and we had listings for sale. It was the most realtors we've ever had in the industry because everybody thought that this was just, you know, everybody just getting rich. And they all got their licenses as quick as they could by 2021. And by 2022, we hit the peak. And I think that the proposed settlement has said that the MLSs have to pay, at least the participating, that they have to pay 100 times their membership, I believe. And again, I'm not a lawyer in deciphering this information. But if there are 1.5 million members, for instance, that'd be $150 million they'd have to pay as part of this settlement. And you're saying that maybe non-participating MLSs can opt into this settlement if they contribute to the fund, I think is what it's called, the fund. By the way, what they said they were going to do with the money that they take into this fund is they were going to put it with, I think, U.S. Treasuries. I thought, oh, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of interesting, huh? Anyway, let's take some more questions.
Yes, let's take some more. And we do have 2 other callers on deck.
All right, well, my computer keeps going out, so I don't see that.
Yeah, we've got, I think Daniel is up next.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Victor. We appreciate
thank
you. Man.
you.
You guys going
We'll see
over to
you
Victor
soon.
Ashley's channel. Check him out. Subscribe to him. And, we got a couple of
Let's
people
bring
on deck
Daniel
here.
in. Are you able to do that, Joe?
We got the Duke.
Awesome.
All right.
Daniel's been patiently waiting.
Here we go.
Right,
Daniel, what's
Hi.
up?
Hey, Todd. Hey, Melissa. How are you?
I'm good.
What's
How are
going
you?
on, man? It's daylight where you are.
Good. It is. Yeah, I'm on the West Coast. I'm in California. So I'm on the Central Coast. Man, you know, just hearing you talk about prices, real estate.
Uh-oh.
We lost
We
him.
lost him.
Let's bring in the Duke.
Man, you're not even going to give him a chance to hop back on.
Well-
We're already kicking him to the curb.
We have to keep the show going.
Felt that there
We
was a
have to
question
keep it
coming, man. I
moving.
thought this was like,
If he comes back, we'll bring him in.
I don't know. Is it?
Is it what?
I don't know. I was thinking about it be. No, never mind.
Oh,
Anyway.
okay. All right.
Hopefully we'll get him back.
Hopefully.
His phone died.
Something
Dude,
happened.
you need a charger.
He was holding for a while. Hi, the Duke. Hello. How are you?
We got no audio.
no sound.
You know, speaking of charger, I think this is a problem. Well, I don't have any.
Can we hear you now? He's doing some adjustments.
Huh?
The Duke is doing some adjustments.
I've lost everybody, clearly.
A lot going on.
A lot going on.
Yeah. The Duke is muted. Can you unmute, Duke?
Oh.
What is going on?
I'm really excited to bring you our next sets that we're working on here in our Sachs Realty podcast studio. And we're working towards a live show on Monday morning. I'm really trying to put that together. Probably when I stop selling real estate, I'll have a lot more time to dedicate to the channel and to training and teaching you guys how to buy and sell successfully, with potentially through automation by maybe even not using real estate agents. Maybe we'll be able to do that and help you with that one day, depending on where we go with this thing. But I'm really excited to, you guys can't see it, but man, we've got things going on here, and we want to have a live audience on Mondays. It's kind of like my dream. I want to have, just like The Price is Right, we could have a live audience. We can ask people, come on down. You're the next
Contestant on The Price is Right.
You're the next guest on the Sachs Realty Monday morning podcast. And come on down. And so we're excited to do that sometime in the very near future.
I'm ready for it. I think it's going to be great.
So anyway, all right.
Duke, do we have? No. Okay.
We still don't
No.
have Duke, dude. We're going to have to kick you. We
Yeah.
got Dan back on?
No,
Or Dan's gone?
no, Dan is gone also,
And he's
so
saying,
let's,
man, I should have charged my phone.
It's all right. Oh, it's all right.
It's like calling up and getting the tickets on the radio. And you're like, oh, yeah, oh, man, you're our 35th caller, and you get these front row seats to click. Oh, he's gone.
He's gone.
His phone died.
Yep. All right, so we're going to just do some more questions.
Let's take some questions.
Yeah, let's do that.
What time is it getting to be? Are we
It's
still good?
8:46.
All right, so
So we're getting there.
here we go.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, 9:46. Thank you, Joe.
It's 8:46 in Texas.
Yes, but 9:46 here. Can you put your compensation on marketing materials like billboards or ads? You advertise that?
Oh, define compensation. Like what you're advertising that you charge to buyers or sellers? I mean, speak with your... I would think, why not? I mean, I don't know about the state advertising, but I mean, I see people doing it all the time, running specials, running promotions, putting out, I mean, here's the thing. And these lawyers, if you're an attorney listening, yeah, do you guys price fix? Maybe you're accusing other people of price fix. I mean, do you actually tell people what your rate is? Is that price fixing? I don't think so. I mean, you can charge your fee as long as you're transparent about it and you tell people what it is. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Brokers shouldn't be talking to each other about fees. If brokers got together and said, let's stick together and charge X amount of dollars, that would be price fixing. That would be illegal. But if you're a broker and you decide that this is the fee that I want for providing services, there's nothing wrong with that. So can you advertise that? I think talk to your broker if you're an agent. And if you're a broker, ask your attorney. But I don't think it's illegal to advertise what you charge. In fact, that may be transparent.
The Duke is back. Are we trying him one more time?
Let's bring him in.
Okay, bring him in.
And he's trying to
Joe,
get on
please.
here. We can't not
All right.
let him.
Do we have sound? No. Just,
Duke.
It's just not your day.
Duke.
Not your day. Oh my gosh.
All right, next question.
All right, next question.
While Duke's trying to figure out his audio.
Okay. Why cannot a seller be represented by a listing agent and the buyer represent themselves? It works in other countries.
I mean, they can. They can. They could buy. They don't need an agent to buy a house. You don't have to have an agent to buy a house. I mean, have at it. You don't need an agent to sell your house. You can do it all on your own if that's what you choose to do. But I want to caution you. There has been evidence that sellers make more money when they use agents. There's been evidence to that. How they produce the evidence, I don't know, but they've talked about the statistics. But I'm telling you right now, it's not always a good idea to represent yourself. You don't know. You don't know what you don't know. I think it's much better for you just to negotiate a fee with a good agent that you're satisfied with. The problem is people don't shop their agents, just like Charles, and I'm not picking on Charles. But why would you have an agent that knows nothing about an area help represent you unless they are fully okay with it? And Charles may be okay with it. It sounds like he is. So that's cool. But it wouldn't be an everyday practice. I mean, I have had people that have said, will you help me here? I want to buy a house, and it's an hour and a half away. And I've been like, yeah, but it's not my area. So,
Yeah.
but they're like, but I want you to do it. It's like, okay, well, if you really want me to, well, then I'm going to do it. And that may be the relationship with Charles and his agent. But it's not a typical practice that works. People should be interviewing agents. I have no problem with that. I have absolutely no problem with somebody interviewing other people, including me. That's fine. Do it. See what's out there. Ask the critical questions. Then make a decision. Right? Oh, we got it, man. We got
Yes!
you. Duke. Man, I hope it's good, brother. I hope you got something good for us, man.
I hope, now I've got the bar raised too high. That's not good. This is like buying my house in 21 to 23. Like, Lord, all the issues. But yeah, I want to say thank you. You know, you guys really helped us. We had a huge struggle. We were trying to move from Boulder down to Denver in Colorado in 21 to 23. It took us 2 years, and your channel really helped us a lot to kind of see clearly
It's awesome.
all the issues going on. And we struggled big time. We went through 5 buyer agents and 1 seller agent, and it was a nightmare. Like, all the buyer agents would just, they wouldn't let us participate in the negotiations. They would, and the other thing too is, like, we had good credit, we had a good down payment. You know, we knew our strength, our leverage was we would close, and we wanted to let the sellers know that. And they just, we finally got one agent that finally understood that and was able to help us use that leverage. But it was just a nightmare. And our seller agent was a nightmare too. We had the seller agent up in Boulder. We sold, and we had to live in an apartment for a year. And then we got her because of one of the buyer agents. We had lived in a mobile home up in Boulder and before we moved down to Denver. And she was just a nightmare. Like, the first 2 months, like, we're like, why aren't we getting sales? Why aren't we getting sales? And finally one day she told me, she said, like, the buyers were turned off because the lot rent was $1,100. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's $870. Why are you telling buyers it's one? And I actually have a law degree and stuff, so I knew enough to, like, strike a little fear in her and say, look, you kind of violated our fiduciary responsibility. And there was, like, a rich guy that he had, like, a year's worth of rent payment, and she was like, oh, well, he doesn't have a job, so the landlord of the mobile home park might not accept him. I'm like, that's not your job. Your job is to sell the house for me. That's between the park and the person. And I had I don't know, they were institutional investors, and we had an institutional investor. I don't care for institutional investors, but I do know with your landlord, you got to keep a good relationship. And I had a good relationship with him. So I knew I could go down and say, hey, can you help us out on this one? And then there was a Hispanic guy that came that didn't speak English, and she was like, oh, he doesn't have a driver's license. And again, I'm like, dude, this is a mobile home in freaking Boulder County. You could throw a rock, you hit somebody that doesn't speak English. And I'm like, you can't tell me that they can't. And again, like, okay, whatever you feel about that, the thing is to get my house sold. So, and then finally we had one lady, she came up, and I was like, I said, I'm sorry. She said, can I see the house without having a loan approved? And I said, yeah, come in. and I said, did you contact her? She says, oh, she was horrible. And I just realized that the seller agent, she just wasn't doing anything. So I started looking
Your
up.
agent sucks, by the way.
Oh, gosh.
Can't get a hold of her. Can I just come and see your house?
It was terrible. Like, she just wouldn't show it. And so finally I started looking in the flat.
She probably lived an hour and a half away.
She lived down in Denver. So it was, hour and a half, actually. Yeah, for us, that's a long way.
What? She really was?
Maryland. I was stationed in Maryland in 91. My daughter was born. So my daughter's a Maryland native.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, she's
1
year total there, but she's still a Maryland native.
I was talking to buyers today, and they fired their agent and they hired me, and we looked at a lot of houses and we got what they wanted, and it was a great experience.
Well,
let me just finish what I was going to say. What she said, what she told me today was, she said, you know what's amazing? She said, our prior agent, every house that we looked at was the greatest thing. She just thought every house we went into, oh, this house is so nice. And she's like, what? This house is terrible. But she just thought it was great. They could actually there could have been another house behind the house that they could shake hands with when they're on their deck. And she would have said, oh, isn't it great? You're so close to your neighbors here. Well, we don't want to be close to our neighbors. But she said to me, it was amazing because every house she showed us was the best house ever. And that we should have bought it. So
that seller agent, I have to tell you, so the contract was a 6-month contract. It was coming to a close. So I started looking into the flat fee realtors because I thought, I'm going to just try to sell this thing myself. And I really wanted the MLS. So I was talking to a few of them about the cost for the MLS listing. So her contract was up and she was she sent us email, you want to redo the contract? I'm like, no, thanks, we're good.
Lose my number. Don't ever call me again.
So I put my phone number out on the thing, and I actually had a class at the time and a bunch of stuff, and I was like, okay, we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. All of a sudden, my phone's ringing off the hook. I had text messages. I sold it in 7 days.
Oh, you sold it yourself?
I sold it myself. She couldn't sell it in 6 months. I reduced it 10,000, but she had already reduced it 20,000 through the 6 months. And I was able to sell it 7 months. So I mean, like this NAR thing, when I hear the complaints about it, and I might have a different opinion from yours than you do, but what I hear is like it's going to be bad because you're going to have buyers and sellers that don't know, and they're not going to be educated, and they're going to be at the whim. And maybe that's not such a bad thing. Have some educated people that look into what they're buying, what they're selling.
But you know what? If you had somebody that was actually doing a good job for you, maybe you would have made the extra $30,000. Maybe you wouldn't have dropped it $20,000 in 6 months with the agent, and maybe you wouldn't have had to drop another $10,000.
Yeah, but I had to go through a lot of damn realtors to get to that one.
Yeah. I hear you. I got to go through a lot of realtors too.
I'm just an average citizen trying to buy and sell.
I know. And look, I'm not saying that there isn't a valid gripe towards the industry in a lot of ways, but here's the thing. It's all about eyeballs.
When I see this lawsuit, I'm like, thank God this industry needs to get it ass kicking, because it just is. From my experience, it's just been a nightmare. And to be lied to, and just to be roped into this. And like I said, I'm not in your industry. I'm in a different industry. So
you might be. You may have liked it and you sold your house. You might want to be in the business.
I have thought about that. I have definitely thought about that.
See, now the truth is coming out. You're like, man, if it was that easy, why?
I'm not a person. Like I kind of rub people the wrong way, but I had some thoughts about that. Like, I could do this better.
You put up with that agent for 6 months. You didn't get rubbed the wrong way enough, I guess. You should have fired that agent. It's amazing because I look at a lot of contracts and stuff, and just because I like to see them, like, hey, by the way, what's the deal? You bought a house in this state or whatever. Could you cancel a contract with your agent? And, a lot of these agency forms, I can't find cancellation clauses in different states. And I'm like, how do you cancel the agreement with somebody that you're signing up with that you may not like in a month or 2 months or whatever? And I tell people all the time, if you're going to be a buyer or a seller, have a cancellation clause that is in that contract that will allow you, if you're not happy, the ability to get out. And I think that's important because too many people stay away. And here's what happens. The relationship kind of grows apart. And the agent's like, well, I'm not calling them because I haven't had any calls. And, man, they haven't called me. And I'm like, but aren't you under contract with them to, like, sell their house? Yeah, but I'm not calling them. They're not calling me, and I'm not calling them. I'm like, what? That's nuts. And then all of a sudden the seller's like, I'm not calling her. The sign blew off in the last windstorm 2 weeks ago, and the sign is in the neighbor's shrub. But I'm not calling the agent because I'm going to show them one day they're going to come by here and see that there's no sign on the post, and I'm going to say, aha, you suck. Yeah. I'm like, why would you wait and put yourself through that? Call them up and say, you suck. Your sign's been in the neighbor's shrub for 2 weeks, and get your sign out of my yard. That's what I say.
Like I said, I did go to law school and pass the bar at one time in my life and practice for a few years. But so I kind of understood the importance of getting out from underneath that contract wholly, not to play games. So it was definitely, and it was, like I said, luckily it was a 6-month contract. So I guess that'd be my advice for other people, make sure you get you don't do like a year or something like that, but 6 months, and it was coming up. By the time we were like, this lady is horrible.
The problem is the track record follows your property around. So when it's been on the MLS, those days on market really ding you, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden they see, well, you dropped the price, or you did this, and all of a sudden the people are looking at it like, well, there must be something wrong with this because they had it on the market for 180 days and nobody bought it, and they had 2 price reductions, and now all of a sudden it's back on the market again. So that's what a lot of people don't realize is that is what works. If they're going to regulate the MLS, if you're going to talk about what rules should maybe change or not change on the MLS, how about give the property a clean slate when you fire the agent that sucks, and it's not your fault as a seller that your property sat on the market for 180 days. It was the agent that didn't do anything, right? And how about we get an opportunity to wipe the slate clean for that? Take the property back to zero because now you're with a new broker that maybe is competent and can do a good job.
One thing I don't like about the MLS is that and this is from a non-real estate, from a homeowner situation, is I don't have access to it. Like I have to go through like Redfin. I know enough to screen scrape, and I did screen scrape some stuff so I get some trends and stuff like that. But I wish average people could have access to the actual MLS and pull that data down and really look at it. But that's again, I'm a different experience here.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you, Duke. Do you have anything else?
No, I appreciate you guys. You guys really helped us. It was a tough 2 years. It was an excruciating 2 years. And your channel really, it was when it started, because people like, oh, it's like 25% in 2020 and 25% 2021, and it'll go 25% 22. And I'm like, wait a minute, that math doesn't make a damn bit of sense. And that's where I started getting plugged into you guys on YouTube, probably first Travis. And I started hearing people saying like, this is insane. This is not sustainable. This is not what happens. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. But the agents are telling me something different. So yeah, no, you guys definitely provide a service.
Contractors are also, so, everybody's in this la-la land right now, but they're starting to wake up.
Oh, it's getting bad. The negative indicators are starting to weigh down on stuff. Like
I don't have as much business. My phone's not ringing.
Cars and
I'm going to have to lay people off. I don't have any jobs on the books. I might not be able to charge $1 gazillion for my services anymore.
And too bad, because that's it's like everybody's like, oh, the interest rates will come down when the market sucks. Yeah, well, so will everybody's life suck too. I got clobbered in 2008. I lost.
By the time the interest rates come down, it ain't gonna be nothing left.
Yeah,
people are gonna be busted. They're gonna be
like, there's that one thing that the Fed, they don't bring the water they don't bring the water to quench the thirst. They bring the water to put out the fire. Right. And I think that's a great quote because, when the interest rates come down, they're not coming here to say, hey, you can buy houses now. No, they're saying that, people are getting laid off big time and they can't buy houses, and we're going to reduce them so you can put some money into the economy. And unfortunately, they've pumped so much money over the last few years. Anyways.
We appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We love having you, follow us. And we're glad we helped. All right.
Bye.
Peace.
All right.
Good stuff, man.
Good
I'd like to hear
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a couple questions, then we'll sign off.
Daniel's back.
Oh, we got to take Dan.
gotta
We
take
got to hang in
Daniel.
with us a little bit here. We got to
Yeah.
see Dan finally charged his phone. What's going on, brother? It's probably dark
can you
in
hear me?
California now.
We can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay. So I turned the camera off because my phone overheated. I don't know why StreamYard does this to my phone, but it does.
Okay, no worries.
So as far as the sellers go, what is stopping sellers agents from just charging an hourly fee for all work that's performed and go, hey, screw it, I'm just going to charge an hourly fee from now on?
Well, I mean, I guess there's nothing stopping them from doing it if they can negotiate whatever a la carte service, a fee-based, whatever. I think that's part of the, what they're saying it can continue to happen. I think the important thing is that we have to identify that if you sign a contract, then you shouldn't make more than what you agreed to do or to accept. And I think here it is. All right. Implication for members: there will continue to be many ways in which a buyer broker can be compensated, including through offers of compensation communicated off MLS. So a lot of this has to do with buyers, but they can do a fixed fee commission paid directly by consumers. They can have a concession from a seller. They can have a portion of listing broker's compensation. So the buyers, I think, the buyer's agents are really the ones that they're trying to figure out, how to not hurt buyers in a transaction. You can do, there's nothing stopping a seller to say, hey, I want to pay you on a X amount of basis, X amount of hours, or I want you to put it on the MLS. I'll give you a fee for that. Or, we can negotiate a fee for that. I want you to, negotiate my contracts. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong
makes
with
sense.
that.
And then
Are you an agent or you?
No. Okay. I work as a firefighter here on the West Coast.
Okay.
So the other thing is I'm struggling with today's market. My market is on the Central Coast in California. Median house price, I'd say, is about $850 right now. I have a significant amount of money that's saved up, and I'm trying to be smart with where my money goes, where it's invested, and how I'm utilizing it. I'm just struggling with the time frame and how long I'm looking at, because realistically, on a single income, a house at $850 is unaffordable. Do you have any advice for people that are in my situation?
Are you single? Did he go away? He's gone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Switching
Dan, we
audio.
got you. Are you a single buyer? Do you have a spouse, a significant other? Would you be buying it with somebody else? What's your situation?
No, single income.
Okay.
So
What I would look at is, I would probably try and zoom in on some of your goals. If you have money saved up, would you be looking at a multifamily property? Are you interested in getting income? If it's just you that's a decision maker, you have the ability to do that. Would you consider an income producing property?
yeah, it would be a combination. So either multifamily, doing a duplex type setup, or doing a single family home. I really don't want a house hack, but if I have to, I'm willing to take that sacrifice.
Or you could do an accessory dwelling unit or something like that, where you're not living with a person, that maybe that they're, in a detached dwelling that's on the property. We are seeing that. The West Coast is where it originated. A lot of this, accessory dwelling unit, a lot of the regulations came from the West Coast. I would say, if I were starting out and, I was a single person and I had some money saved up, and, it's different when, and some people's goals, obviously goals are different, but if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, look, I'm getting married, or I have a wife, or a significant other, and I want to start laying down some roots, things like that, we're going to have a different conversation. If somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, look, I've got money, I make money, where's my opportunity in this?" I would say try and find a property that isn't the norm, that isn't the highest priority for the majority of buyers. And then I would look at something that has a significant upside to it. And that's me advising somebody that has some time and has some money and some wherewithal, and maybe can take advantage of this time in your life when you're not really stressed out to do a specific thing. And I would look at it more from an investment standpoint. How can I get in a place and maybe buy something that no one else wants, but I find out that there's reason that that I can take this property and do something better. And a lot of times it comes down to maybe a property is even subdividable, and you just go through the subdividing process, and you've got a lot that you can sell, and now you're in a different financial position. Or it may be that you take a property to a higher and better use. Maybe it can be a home office, or maybe it has some commercial value, something like that. Maybe you can make it a multifamily dwelling. We look at houses that are zoned where, you look at it completely different. If I buy a house and I say, hey, I can split this thing into 2 units, and I could, sell it as a multifamily, and I can make some money and move myself on to the next, the next part of my goal and objective. I think what happens is there's a lot more freedom in that than if you are with somebody that says, I'm not interested in doing that. You have a significant other that's like, I don't want any parts of that. I want a place that I can, lay down roots and live. So I would be thinking along those lines. I would be examining my goals and my objectives. And I would say time is on your side. People believe that the real estate prices are not going to come down. I don't buy into that philosophy. I never have. At the beginning of this outrage of people overbuying on properties, it doesn't make sense. The numbers don't work. The salaries, you're not making enough money. You're paying 50% plus for your income, and we're relying on job salary raises to make my life more affordable after I get myself into this 30-year commitment. And I think we got problems with that. I think that people have overspent. They're in debt, the worst consumer debt we've seen, and we have a country that is in debt. How is that not going to affect prices? I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. And, people say, well, you've been calling for a housing crash and we haven't seen it. It's a lot different than it was 2 years ago. And these things are slow moving. They don't just happen all of a sudden, because there's liquidity in the market that has to be erased. And then there's exuberance that has to be subdued. And we're seeing it happen. We're starting to see, not every market, not everywhere, but it starts in new construction, and we're starting to see that crack show up. We're starting to see unemployment rise. We're starting to see where businesses are slowing down. We're starting to see cracks. And when these cracks happen, the first thing that's going to happen is people are going to be like, man, I made this commitment that I can't honor. And they're going to be looking to sell, and we're going to see inventory rise. Not only that, but we have, just from simple math and metrics, we have 30 million baby boomers that are getting ready to downsize. That's a lot of inventory. So, just because we're not seeing it yet, I'm not convinced that we won't. So I think if, time is on your side, try and analyze the market. If you want to have a deeper conversation with it, reach out. We'll set something up. Be glad to, give you some advice as someone that, has done pretty well in the real estate industry. And, but I think, don't pressure yourself, and let your frustration mean something to you. You're obviously smart, and you've been able to save some money.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds good. I appreciate the advice, and I'll probably give you a call sometime this week and touch base with you.
Yep.
I think that's some really wise information. Thank you.
You got it, man. We appreciate you calling in and your persistence to get that phone working. So, all right, let's take 2 questions, and then we'll jump off.
We do have 2 super chats. Super quickly, I just want to address these. Victor, of course, thank you for having me on. Happy to serve in Seattle, Washington. Prayers to those affected by the Francis Scott Key.
We appreciate you, Victor.
Thank you so much.
Actually
And
had an opportunity to meet him, and we broke bread together. And
yeah, he's a good guy.
Good guy.
I vaguely remember the book Freakonomics claiming seller agents cause a decrease in house prices since the incentive is to churn. Commission on a premium is comparatively negligible.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot packed into that comment, and I don't disagree that we don't need reform of some type in many businesses, and real estate just happens to be one of those businesses. If you listen to my channel long enough, you know that it's very frustrating to see that we've lacked leadership, good leadership that has put the client first, and that is a colossal mistake in our industry. And for that reason alone, we're going to get the disappointment and the well-deserved criticism because we've taken our responsibility off of satisfying clients and we've put it on satisfying agents, and it's a loose cannon, and it's the Wild West, and it's a hard group to rein in. A lot of agents are agents because they weren't good at anything else. I hate to say it, but it's true. They decided, well, this would be an easier thing for me to do. I can always get my real estate license, and you guys can criticize me for that. But the proof is in the pudding, and what we're seeing out there, and the lawsuit is evidence that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, one more. Where's that? It was that two?
That was a comment. I guess those were both comments, but this is a question. Can you use a lawyer rather than a real estate agent?
100%. Yeah. You can have an attorney represent you, get their rate on what it's going to be for them to walk you through the home, and be there at your home inspection, and see what they're going to charge you. You may be better off with a good real estate agent, but if you want a lawyer, then get one. Mm-hmm. It's if you don't understand the contract, then you should get one. It says it right at the top of the contracts. Seek competent legal counsel, advice if you don't understand what it is you're signing, because they are contracts. But anyway, we thank you guys. We love you. We appreciate you spending your time with us. Drop your comments below. We love to read them. Melissa, thanks for another Tuesday night.
Thank you for another Tuesday night. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, callers. It's been a great show this evening. Looking forward to seeing you next week.
All right. Until next time. See you soon.
See you soon.